She lived in an 8 by 10 garden shed for 7 years, washing dishes at night and studying by candlelight, all to give her twin daughters an education. 25 years later, they returned with a surprise that would change countless lives. Olivia Reynolds had once been a promising medical student with a bright future ahead of her. She and her husband Robert, a construction worker, had been saving for their first real home while eagerly awaiting the birth of their twins. They had modest dreams, a small yard perhaps, a room where their children could play, and eventually, Olivia's medical degree hanging proudly on the wall. But life doesn't always follow our carefully laid plans. Sometimes, it takes unexpected turns that test the very limits of human endurance. Spring in Chicago, 2000. The city was shaking off the chill of winter, and 26-year-old Olivia Reynolds couldn't contain her excitement as she arranged tiny yellow ducks on the shelf of what would soon be a nursery. At 6 months pregnant with twins, her rounded belly made it difficult to reach the back of the shelf, but she was determined to create the perfect space for her babies. "I think they'll be girls," she told Robert as he walked in after his shift at the construction site. His work clothes were dusty, but his smile was bright as he placed his hands gently on her stomach. "As long as they're healthy," he replied, the same answer he always gave. "And as long as they're as smart as their mother." Olivia laughed, leaning into his embrace. "Well, with your work ethic and my brains, they'll be unstoppable." Their apartment was small but filled with promise. Books on pediatric medicine and child development lined their shelves. Olivia was midway through medical school, determined to become a pediatrician. Robert had taken on extra shifts at the high-rise construction site downtown to support them while she studied. They had a plan. Robert would be the primary caregiver when the babies arrived, working weekends while Olivia's mother helped during the week. Olivia would take one semester off, then return to complete her degree. "Did you talk to Dr. Simmons about your leave?" Robert asked as they prepared dinner together in their tiny kitchen. "She thinks I'm crazy to come back so soon," Olivia admitted, chopping vegetables. "But plenty of women have done it. Besides, we've waited too long for this. 4 more years, and I'll be Dr. Reynolds. Then you can finally quit those double shifts." Robert kissed her forehead. "Hey, I don't mind the work. Those babies are going to need diapers. A lot of diapers." The next morning, Olivia was reviewing her obstetrics notes when the phone rang. The foreman's voice was tense, formal. There had been an accident at the construction site. A platform had collapsed. Robert had fallen from the 14th floor. The world stopped spinning. At the hospital, the doctors spoke in hushed, gentle tones that barely penetrated the roaring in Olivia's ears. Internal bleeding, multiple fractures. They had done everything possible. She was allowed to see him, to say goodbye, his body broken beyond recognition, before he was gone forever. The twins kicked inside her as she sat motionless in the hospital waiting room, a cruel reminder that life continued even when it felt impossible. The funeral passed in a blur of faces and voices. Robert's parents, stern and proper, stood rigidly across from her at the graveside. "If you had been content with a normal job instead of pushing him to support your fancy education, he wouldn't have been working so hard," her mother-in-law hissed during the reception. "He would still be alive." Olivia couldn't even find the words to defend herself against such cruelty. The truth was, in her darkest moments, she had thought the same thing. The medical bills arrived next. Emergency services, surgical attempts to save him, the funeral costs. Robert's life insurance policy, it turned out, had lapsed just 3 weeks earlier. He had meant to renew it, had even mentioned it to Olivia, but between extra shifts and preparing for the babies, it had slipped through the cracks. When Olivia approached her in-laws for help, they offered a cold solution: give up the babies for them to raise, and they would handle everything. "You're in no position to be a mother now," her father-in-law said. "Be sensible, Olivia. You can't raise twins alone with no income and half a medical degree." "They're all I have left of him," she whispered, hands protectively covering her belly. "Then you're on your own," her mother-in-law replied, closing the door. At 8 months pregnant, Olivia dropped out of medical school, the deferment fees adding to her mounting debt. She sold what she could, her textbooks, their second-hand furniture, even her wedding ring, to cover the most pressing bills. But it wasn't enough. The twins arrived early on a cold April morning, tiny, fragile things needing incubators and round-the-clock care. Maya and Zoe, named as she and Robert had planned. Maya came first, smaller but louder. Zoe followed 7 minutes later, quietly observing the world with wide, solemn eyes. "They're fighters," the nurse told Olivia, "just like their mama." But Olivia didn't feel like a fighter. She felt defeated as she visited her daughters in the NICU, pumping breast milk and touching their impossibly small hands through the incubator openings. The hospital social worker gently suggested she apply for assistance programs, which she did, swallowing her pride. When the twins were finally strong enough to go home, Olivia returned to an apartment with an eviction notice on the door. The landlord had been patient, but his patience had limits. She had 30 days. Job hunting with newborn twins proved nearly impossible. Childcare costs would consume any entry-level salary she might earn. Without her degree, medical offices wouldn't hire her for anything beyond reception work. She applied everywhere: stores, restaurants, offices, carrying the twins in a double stroller to interviews, which usually ended the moment managers saw the babies. "I can work any shift," she would say desperately. "I can arrange childcare." But the polite smiles and empty promises of, "We'll call you," told the real story. As the eviction date loomed closer, Olivia packed their few remaining possessions into a used double stroller she'd found at a thrift store. Her mother had passed away 2 years earlier from cancer, and her father lived in a memory care facility in Florida. There were no relatives to turn to, no friends close enough to impose upon with newborn twins. On a rainy May morning, Olivia wheeled the twins and their belongings to a family shelter across town. The intake worker was kind but direct. "We're at capacity right now, but we can put you on the waiting list. It might be 2 weeks. "We don't have 2 weeks, Olivia said, fighting back tears. "We don't have anywhere to go tonight." The worker made some calls, finding them emergency placement for 3 nights in a church basement shelter. It was loud, chaotic, and Olivia barely slept, keeping the twins close to her body on a thin mattress on the floor. For 2 weeks, they moved between temporary shelters, carrying everything they owned in the stroller. The twins, now 2 months old, were colicky and overwhelmed by the constant changes. Olivia was running on empty, surviving on donated food and determination. It was during a desperate walk through Westside Park that Olivia spotted the abandoned shed behind an overgrown community garden. It was small, perhaps 8 by 10 feet, with a slanted roof and broken windows, but it had walls. It had a door. It offered shelter. Looking over her shoulder, Olivia pushed through the tangled garden to examine it more closely. The padlock on the door was rusty and broke easily when she hit it with a rock. Inside, garden tools hung on peeling walls, and the wooden floor was partially rotted in one corner, but it was empty, forgotten. That night, instead of returning to the shelter, Olivia brought the twins to the shed. She cleared the spider webs and swept the dirt floor with an old broom she found inside. Using cardboard from a nearby dumpster, she covered the broken windows. She changed the babies on a clean blanket spread across an upturned wheelbarrow, singing softly to keep them from crying. "This is just temporary," she whispered, though she had no plan beyond surviving another day, just until Mommy figures things out. Over the next week, Olivia scavenged materials to make the shed more livable. She found discarded plastic sheeting behind a hardware store to patch the leaky roof. An abandoned milk crate became a makeshift table. She fashioned a bed from flattened cardboard boxes and the twins' baby blankets. Water came from a spigot in the garden. For bathroom needs, she used public restrooms in a nearby library during the day and a bucket in the shed at night. She washed the twins' few clothes in the library sink and dried them on bushes behind the shed. Each improvement was a small victory in a war she feared she was losing. The twins were growing, needing more milk than she could produce. Formula was expensive, even with assistance, and winter would eventually come. The shed, with its thin walls and patched roof, would be freezing. 2 weeks into their new living situation, Olivia woke to find an elderly Asian man standing in the doorway of the shed, watching her with curious eyes. She gasped, clutching the twins protectively. "Please," she said immediately. "We don't have anywhere else to go. I'll clean up. I'll leave it better than I found it. Just please give us a little time." The man said nothing, just continued to observe her makeshift home, the carefully organized baby supplies, the swept floor, the patched windows. "This is my garden," he finally said, his accent thick but words precise. "My name is Takashi Nakamura." Olivia's heart sank. "I'm sorry, Mr. Nakamura. We'll leave right away." He held up a weathered hand. No, I did not say leave." He looked at the sleeping twins. "Babies need a home. I'm trying to find something," Olivia explained, tears threatening. "It's just hard with 2 babies and no job yet." Mr. Nakamura nodded thoughtfully. "Garden needs help. Weeds grow too fast for old man. You help garden, you stay in shed." Olivia could hardly believe what she was hearing. "You'd let us stay? I can definitely help with the garden. I can clean, fix things. Garden first," he said firmly. 4 hours each day. Rest time. You find job. Take care of babies." "Thank you," Olivia whispered, tears now flowing freely. "Thank you so much." Mr. Nakamura gave a small bow. Everyone needs help sometimes. Before leaving, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small brass key. "New lock. You keep shed safe." After he left, Olivia held the twins close, whispering to them through happy tears. "Did you hear that? We have a home now. It's not much, but it's ours. And Mommy's going to make it better, I promise." True to her word, Olivia worked in the garden each morning, the twins sleeping in a makeshift shade tent she constructed nearby. Mr. Nakamura taught her which plants were weeds and which were precious vegetables. Under his guidance, the garden flourished, and so did a fragile new hope in Olivia's heart. As summer ripened into fall, Olivia established a precarious routine. Mornings were spent in the garden with Mr. Nakamura, who slowly revealed pieces of his own story. He had come to America after World War II, built a small landscaping business, and purchased this lot for community gardening after retirement. His wife had died a decade earlier, and his son lived in California, too busy with his tech career to visit often. "You remind me of my daughter," he told Olivia one morning as they harvested tomatoes. "She was strong like you. Cancer took her young." "I'm sorry," Olivia said, understanding loss in a way she never had before. He shrugged, the motion carrying decades of endured pain. "Life continues. We honor them by living well." With the garden work securing their shelter, Olivia focused on finding income. The breakthrough came when she spotted a help wanted sign in the window of a 24-hour diner 10 blocks away. The manager, a harried woman named Darlene, looked skeptical when Olivia inquired about the night shift. "I've got 2 babies," Olivia admitted up front, "but I can work midnight to 8. They're good sleepers now." "And what about childcare?" Darlene asked, arms crossed. Olivia hesitated. The truth, that she planned to bring the sleeping twins with her, would surely end the interview, but she had run out of options. "I don't have childcare," she admitted, "but I was hoping, if they could sleep in the back room. They're quiet, I promise. I can check on them between tables." She expected immediate rejection. Instead, Darlene studied her for a long moment. "My mother waited tables with me sleeping under the counter when I was little," she finally said. "Night shift's hard to fill. You start tomorrow, but first sign of trouble with health inspectors or customers complaining. That's it." Olivia wanted to hug her but settled for a grateful handshake. "You won't regret it, I promise." That night, Olivia modified an old shopping cart she found abandoned near the garden, padding it with blankets to create a mobile crib. At 11:30 p.m., she tucked the sleeping twins inside, covered them with a light blanket, and wheeled them carefully through the quiet streets to the diner. The back room was little more than a storage closet, but it was clean and warm. Olivia created a safe sleeping space on the floor, away from shelves or anything that could fall. Then she donned her apron and stepped into her new role. The night shift clientele was a mixture of insomniacs, taxi drivers, hospital workers, and occasionally, the intoxicated. Olivia learned to pour coffee with one hand while balancing plates on her forearm. She memorized orders and developed a sixth sense for when the twins might wake. Every hour, she slipped into the back room to check on them, sometimes feeding or changing them before returning to her tables. Tips were modest but added up. Her first paycheck felt like a fortune, though it barely covered formula and diapers. Still, it was income, the first step toward stability. As the twins reached 6 months, Olivia noticed their alertness, their curiosity about the world. Despite their circumstances, she was determined they would have mental stimulation and early education. She began collecting discarded materials from recyclables, cardboard, clean plastic containers, bottle caps, and creating simple toys and learning games. She made flashcards from food boxes, teaching the girls colors and shapes. She sang educational songs she remembered from her own childhood and narrated everything she did, building their vocabulary. At night in the shed, she showed them picture books rescued from library discard bins, pointing out animals and letters. "A is for apple," she would say, pointing to the faded illustration. "B is for butterfly." The shed itself was slowly transforming. Olivia had patched the walls with salvaged wood and lined the inside with cardboard and newspaper for insulation. She'd created a small rocket stove from tin cans and bricks for heat, venting it carefully through a metal pipe in the wall. A plastic tarp now covered the roof, stopping the persistent leaks. She'd even managed to find a discarded futon mattress, which she thoroughly cleaned and placed on wooden pallets to keep it off the ground. As winter approached, however, Olivia worried. Chicago winters were brutal, and despite her improvements, the shed would be dangerously cold. She worked extra shifts at the diner, saving every penny for a small space heater and the electricity to run it. Mr. Nakamura, observing her preparations, appeared one morning with his son, a serious-looking man in an expensive coat who regarded Olivia with obvious disapproval. "My father tells me you are living here," he said bluntly. Olivia's heart sank. "Yes, your father has been very kind to let us stay in exchange for garden work. This is not a residence," he replied, looking around the shed with distaste. "It's unsafe, especially for children." "Akiro," Mr. Nakamura interjected sharply. "This is my garden, my decision, and your liability if something happens," his son countered. "Father, be reasonable. There are social services for situations like this." Olivia felt sick. She knew what social services could mean, possibly losing custody of her daughters while she struggled to find approved housing she couldn't afford. "Please," she said quietly, "we're managing. The girls are healthy, they're developing normally. I'm working, saving money." Mr. Nakamura spoke rapidly to his son in Japanese, his usually calm demeanor clearly agitated. After a heated exchange, Akiro sighed heavily. "My father is stubborn," he said. "He insists you stay. But I want to be clear. If anything happens to those children, I will hold you personally responsible. After he left, Mr. Nakamura apologized. My son worries. Lawyers always worry. He's right to be concerned, Olivia admitted. This isn't ideal for children. Life is not ideal, the old man replied simply. We make it better where we can. He handed her a small electric space heater. For winter, be careful with fire. That winter proved to be one of Chicago's coldest in decades. The space heater helped, but Olivia still padded the shed with every insulating material she could find. On the worst nights, when temperatures dropped below zero, they couldn't stay in the shed. Instead, Olivia would take the twins to the 24-hour library until closing time, then to her shift at the diner, where Darlene would sometimes let them sleep in the booth farthest from the door until morning. It was during one of these bitter, cold nights at the library that Olivia met Harriet Washington, a retired librarian who still volunteered during evening hours. She noticed Olivia reading picture books to the twins, observing her animated expressions and the educational games she played with them. You're quite good with them, Harriet commented, sitting down at their table. Most parents just plop their kids in front of the computers. Olivia smiled tiredly. I want them to love learning, books especially. Well, you're doing something right. Their attention span is remarkable for their age. Harriet introduced herself, and over the following weeks, she began saving special books for the twins and offering Olivia tips on early childhood education. What Olivia didn't realize was that Harriet had also noticed the same family arriving each evening with a cart full of possessions, staying until closing, then disappearing into the night. She noticed the slight staleness to their clothes, the careful rationing of snacks, the way Olivia washed the twins in the public restroom. One evening, as closing time approached and a blizzard raged outside, Harriet approached their table. I live 2 blocks away, she said casually. My guest room is small, but it has a double bed. You're welcome to stay tonight. This weather's not fit for anyone to be out. Olivia hesitated, pride warred with practical necessity. The wind howled outside the windows, and the thought of wheeling the twins through snowdrifts to the diner made her decision. Just for tonight, she agreed. Thank you. Harriet's apartment was warm and filled with books, just as Olivia had imagined a librarian's home would be. The guest room was tiny but clean, with faded floral wallpaper and a patchwork quilt on the bed. After settling the twins, Olivia joined Harriet for tea in the kitchen. You don't have stable housing, do you? Harriet asked directly but kindly. Olivia stared into her teacup. No, but we're managing. Where are you staying, if you don't mind my asking? After a long pause, Olivia told her about the shed, Mr. Nakamura, the diner job. She expected judgment or a lecture, but Harriet just listened, occasionally asking practical questions. And what's your long-term plan? She finally asked. Save enough for an apartment deposit. Maybe get my CNA certification. It's shorter than finishing my medical degree. Something to provide a better income. Harriet nodded thoughtfully. Education is never wasted. And those girls of yours, they're bright. I can see it already. During that blizzard week, Olivia and the twins stayed with Harriet, forming a friendship that would prove vital. Harriet, childless herself but with a teacher's heart, began collecting early learning materials for the twins. She showed Olivia how to create lesson plans appropriate for their development and offered to watch them occasionally when Olivia needed to handle matters that weren't suitable for babies. You remind me of my younger sister, Harriet told her. She was a single mother too, worked herself to the bone to give her son opportunities. He's a doctor now. By spring, the twins were crawling and babbling, right on schedule despite their unconventional life. Olivia continued her night shifts at the diner while working in the garden during the day. The shed, now equipped with salvaged shelves and carefully organized baby supplies, felt as close to a home as their circumstances allowed. But the constant work and stress were taking a toll. Olivia had lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. She caught every cold the twins brought home, each lasting longer than it should. One June morning, while weeding Mr. Nakamura's tomato plants, the world suddenly tilted sideways. She heard him calling her name as darkness closed in. She woke in a hospital bed, an IV in her arm and Harriet sitting beside her, holding her hand. The twins? Olivia asked immediately, trying to sit up. Are fine, Harriet assured her. They're with Mr. Nakamura and his daughter-in-law. Don't worry. The doctor diagnosed exhaustion, anemia, and malnutrition. You're running on empty, he told her bluntly. Your body can't sustain this pace without proper nutrition and rest. I don't have a choice, Olivia replied. Then you need to make one, he said, before your daughters lose their mother too. During her 3-day hospital stay, Olivia had time to think, really think, beyond day-to-day survival. The twins were growing, would need more than she could provide in their current situation. She needed a better job, which meant more education. When Harriet visited, Olivia shared her realization. I need to go back to school. Harriet didn't look surprised. I thought you might come to that conclusion. Any ideas how? I still have my acceptance to the nursing program at City College. I never formally withdrew, just took an unofficial leave. If I could somehow manage even part-time classes, childcare would be the biggest hurdle, Harriet mused. Not to mention tuition. I qualified for scholarships before, Olivia said. Maybe some are still available. As for childcare, I don't know. The diner at night, classes during the day. When would I see the twins? When would I sleep? One step at a time, Harriet advised. Start by checking if your scholarships are still valid. Upon discharge, Olivia was surprised to find Mr. Nakamura and Akiro waiting alongside Harriet. The twins, now 1 year old, babbled excitedly from their stroller. We have discussed your situation, Mr. Nakamura said formally. Olivia tensed, expecting the worst, that they could no longer stay in the shed. My son has concerns about your living conditions, he continued. As do I, after your collapse. I understand, Olivia said, heart sinking. We'll find somewhere else. That is not what I said, Mr. Nakamura chided. Listen before answering. Akiro stepped forward. My father is stubborn, as I said. He insisted I find a solution instead of a problem. He didn't look entirely pleased about this. I've spoken with a contractor. The shed needs proper insulation, electrical wiring to code, and a real door. It's still not an ideal living situation, but it would be safer. Olivia stared at them in disbelief. You're going to improve the shed? For us? Under specific conditions, Akiro clarified. You must seek better housing options through proper channels. You must address your health concerns, and you must have a plan for the children's future that doesn't involve living in a garden shed indefinitely. I do, Olivia said firmly. I'm going back to school. The upgraded shed, while still tiny, was transformed. Proper insulation and drywall replaced the cardboard-lined walls. A small window air conditioning unit, donated by one of Mr. Nakamura's former employees, made summer bearable. The legally installed electrical outlet powered not just the heater and AC, but also a small lamp for reading and studying. Akiro's contractor friend had been creative with the limited space, building a platform bed that Olivia slept on, with the twins' mattress sliding underneath during the day to create floor space. A fold-down table attached to the wall served as a dining area and desk. The roof no longer leaked, and the new steel door locked securely. It's still a shed, Akiro reminded her when the work was completed, but at least it meets minimal safety standards. To Olivia, it felt like a palace. With their living situation stabilized, Olivia focused on education, both the twins and her own. A visit to the college confirmed that her academic scholarship could be partially reinstated if she maintained excellent grades. The nursing program offered evening classes, which would allow her to keep her night job at the diner. The childcare puzzle was solved through an unlikely alliance. Harriet volunteered to watch the twins 2 evenings a week during Olivia's classes. For a third evening, Mr. Nakamura's daughter-in-law Yuki, who had softened toward Olivia after her husband's intervention, offered to help. The remaining class would be an online course Olivia could complete during the twins' nap time. That September, as the twins turned 18 months old, Olivia entered the nursing program. She attended orientation wearing a carefully thrifted outfit, her second-hand textbooks purchased with money she'd been saving all summer. Her classmates were mostly younger, living with parents or partners, complaining about workloads that seemed luxuriously light to Olivia. Her schedule was punishing. Mornings were devoted to the twins, educational activities, walks to the park, visits to the library for story time. Afternoons were for studying while they napped, followed by dinner preparation and getting the girls ready for whoever was watching them that evening. 3 nights a week, she attended classes from 6-9 p.m., then went directly to her diner shift until 6 a.m. She would return to the shed, sleep for 3 hours while Mr. Nakamura watched the girls in the garden, then start the cycle again. The 4th night, she worked her diner shift while studying during slow periods. The 5th night was fully devoted to the twins, though she often fell asleep alongside them, textbooks open on her lap. You can't maintain this pace, Harriet warned when she noticed Olivia nodding off during their weekly Sunday dinner at her apartment, a tradition that provided Olivia and the twins with at least one proper home-cooked meal a week. Just until I finish the program, Olivia insisted. 2 years, then I'll be a registered nurse. The starting salary is 3 times what I make at the diner. If you don't collapse again first, Harriet muttered. Despite the grueling schedule, Olivia thrived academically. The material came easily to her, much of it familiar from her previous medical studies. Her practical experience as a mother gave her an edge in pediatric care discussions. Professors noted her exceptional work, though they sometimes had to wake her when she dozed off during lectures. The twins, meanwhile, were developing into bright, curious toddlers. Their vocabulary expanded rapidly, partly due to Olivia's constant narration of everything around them, and partly from Harriet's structured learning activities. By age 2, they could identify all their colors, count to 20, and recognized a surprising number of written words. They're quite advanced, Harriet noted one afternoon as Maya correctly identified animals in a picture book while Zoe arranged blocks by size order, especially considering their circumstances. "I don't want them limited by our situation," Olivia said, watching them with fierce pride. "They deserve every opportunity." "Have you thought about preschool? Head Start has excellent programs." Olivia sighed. "I've looked into it. The nearest program has a 2-year waiting list unless you have priority status. Priority status typically went to children with documented special needs or those in the foster system. Olivia's daughters, despite their housing situation, didn't qualify for immediate placement." "That's ridiculous," Harriet huffed. "These girls would benefit tremendously from early structured education." "I know. I'm on every waiting list in the county. For now, I'll keep teaching them myself." As her first year of nursing school progressed, Olivia maintained her perfect GPA despite overwhelming fatigue. She lost track of how many papers were written between midnight and 5 a.m. at the diner counter, or how many flashcards she reviewed while the twins played at her feet. Sleep became a luxury she scarcely remembered. The twins turned 3, then 4. They outgrew clothes faster than Olivia could replace them. The shed, once spacious for a woman with infant twins, grew cramped for a mother with active preschoolers. They spent as much time as possible outdoors, in the garden, at the library, at free community events to counter the confines of their home. It was during a library story hour that Olivia first heard about the West Side STEM Academy, a specialized public elementary school for gifted children interested in science and mathematics. The librarian mentioned it was accepting applications for the upcoming fall kindergarten class. "It's quite selective," the librarian told the parents, "but they offer incredible opportunities, full science labs, advanced mathematics, coding classes starting in kindergarten." Olivia watched Maya and Zoe during the story hour. Maya was counting the bears in the story before the librarian announced the number. Zoe was studying the book's structure, asking about the author and illustrator. Both showed natural academic inclinations that Olivia recognized from her own childhood. That evening, she researched the STEM Academy online at the library. The school was indeed selective, requiring testing and interviews, but it was public, free for residents of the district, and its extended day program ran from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., which would allow Olivia to pick up additional daytime hours at the diner or a clinical setting as her nursing program required. The application process proved challenging. It requested a permanent address, the garden shed wouldn't qualify, employment information, and previous educational records for the children. While the twins had received all their required vaccinations through free clinics, they had no formal preschool experience. "Use my address," Harriet offered when Olivia explained the dilemma. "I'm within the district boundaries." "That would be lying," Olivia hesitated. "That would be giving those brilliant girls a fighting chance," Harriet countered. "Besides, you're here 3 days a week for dinner and lessons. It's practically a second home." With Harriet's address on the application, the twins secured testing appointments. Olivia prepared them diligently, not by drilling academic content, but by explaining the testing environment and encouraging them to show what they knew without fear. On testing day, she dressed them in clean, second-hand dresses and carefully braided their hair. They looked like any other hopeful kindergartners, not children who lived in a garden shed. "Just do your best," she told them. "Whatever happens, Mommy is proud of you." 2 weeks later, Olivia received 2 acceptance letters. Both Maya and Zoe had tested in the 99th percentile across all measures. They were offered immediate placement for the fall semester, with Zoe flagged for the advanced mathematics track and Maya for the science focus. Olivia wept with joy when she read the letters, then panicked as reality set in. How would she manage school drop-off and pick-up with her schedule? The STEM Academy required parent involvement. How could she attend meetings and events? And most pressingly, what would happen if the school discovered their living situation? "One problem at a time," Harriet advised. "Let's start with logistics." Together, they mapped out a revised schedule. Olivia would drop the twins at the early morning program at 7 a.m. after her diner shift, then sleep for a few hours before her nursing classes or clinical rotations. Harriet would pick them up at 4 p.m. on days Olivia couldn't make it. The diner manager, impressed by Olivia's dedication over the years, agreed to a more flexible schedule to accommodate her changing needs. The twins' enrollment began smoothly. Their teachers were impressed by their academic preparation and social skills. Despite never attending preschool, they integrated well with their classmates. No one questioned their listed address, and Harriet made sure to attend the initial parent meetings alongside Olivia to reinforce the fabrication. The new schedule was even more demanding than before. Olivia now rushed from night shifts to school drop-off, then to her own classes or clinical work, then back to pick up the twins when possible. She studied during every free moment, on buses between destinations, during her lunch breaks, late at night when the twins were asleep, but the results were worth it. The twins flourished at the academy, bringing home exciting projects and new knowledge every day. Maya developed a passion for insects and ecology, collecting specimens from the garden to examine. Zoe showed remarkable mathematical intuition, solving puzzles meant for much older children. You've given them a foundation most privileged children don't have, their kindergarten teacher told Olivia during a conference. Their curiosity, their work ethic, it's exceptional. Olivia didn't mention that their work ethic came from watching their mother study by candlelight when the electricity allocation for the month ran out, or that their resourcefulness developed from making toys out of discarded materials. As the twins progressed through kindergarten and into first grade, Olivia advanced through her nursing program. Her clinical evaluations were stellar, with supervisors noting her compassion, attention to detail, and calm under pressure. Life had taught her crisis management skills that couldn't be learned in any classroom. Their careful balancing act seemed sustainable until a series of crises hit simultaneously during the twins' second grade year. First, Mr. Nakamura suffered a severe stroke. He was hospitalized, then moved to a rehabilitation facility. Without his daily presence in the garden, Olivia worried about their housing situation. Akiro visited the garden occasionally, checking on its upkeep but saying little about the future. Then, Olivia's nursing program entered its most intensive phase, requiring full-time clinical rotations that made her night shift at the diner impossible to maintain. She had saved some money, but not enough to cover 3 months without income. The final blow came when a new family moved into the house adjacent to the garden. The mother, watching from her kitchen window, noticed the comings and goings from the shed. One afternoon, she approached Olivia as she was helping the twins with homework at the small outdoor table Mr. Nakamura had built for them. "Do you live in that shed?" she asked bluntly, eyeing their setup with obvious concern. "We help maintain the garden," Olivia answered evasively. The woman frowned. "I've seen lights in there at night, and the children go in and out. You're living in there, aren't you?" Olivia said nothing, which was confirmation enough. 2 days later, a woman in a crisp blazer appeared at the shed door just as Olivia was preparing the twins for bed. She introduced herself as Denise Williams from Child Protective Services. "We received a report about children living in inadequate housing," she explained, her expression professionally neutral as she surveyed the shed. "I need to conduct an assessment." Olivia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This was the moment she had feared for years, when the precarious structure of their lives might collapse entirely. "The girls are healthy and doing well in school," she said quickly, inviting Denise inside. "I know this isn't ideal, but we're managing. I'm just a few months from finishing my nursing degree." Denise took careful notes as she examined the shed. She noted the cleanliness, the organized school materials, the small shelf of books. She asked to see the girls' health records, school reports, and Olivia's student identification. "How long have you been living here?" she asked. "Almost 7 years," Olivia admitted. "Since the twins were 2 months old." Denise's eyebrows rose. 7 years in this shed? "It's been improved," Olivia pointed out. "There's proper insulation now, electrical wiring to code. It's small, but it's safe." "Mrs. Reynolds," Ms. Olivia corrected automatically. "My husband died before the twins were born." Something in Denise's expression shifted slightly. "Ms. Reynolds, while I can see you're doing your best under difficult circumstances, this living situation does not meet minimum housing standards for children. I'll need to file my report and discuss options with my supervisor." "What kind of options?" Olivia asked, her throat tight with fear. "That depends. There might be emergency housing assistance available. There are also temporary placement options while more permanent housing is secured." "Temporary placement? You mean foster care?" Panic edged Olivia's voice. "Please, you can't separate us. The girls are thriving despite everything. They're top of their class at the STEM Academy. We've been through so much together." Denise hesitated, then closed her notebook. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you because I can see how much you care. Cases like yours are complicated. You're clearly an attentive mother doing everything possible for your children. But this," she gestured around the shed, "will be hard to justify to my supervisor. The regulations are clear about minimum square footage, separate sleeping areas, proper facilities." Olivia sank onto the edge of the bed, the twins watching wide-eyed from their homework table. "What can I do? I'm so close to finishing my degree. 3 more months of clinical rotations, then I'll be able to get a nursing position. We can get a proper apartment then." 3 months is a long time in the system," Denise said gently, "and there's still the gap between graduation and securing employment." That night, after the twins were asleep, Olivia sat outside the shed under the stars, facing the hardest decision of her life. Perhaps the girls would be better off in temporary foster care, with regular meals, proper bedrooms, stability. They could continue at the STEM Academy while Olivia completed her degree and secured housing. It would be a matter of months, not years. The thought of separation was unbearable, but was she being selfish? Was her determination to keep them together actually holding them back? As dawn broke, Olivia began packing the twins' few precious possessions, their favorite books, the handmade dolls Harriet had sewn for them, their academic certificates from school. Their entire lives fit into 2 small backpacks. She would explain everything to them after school, prepare them for what was coming. When Denise returned that afternoon, Olivia had the backpacks ready by the door. The twins were at school, which was deliberate. Olivia couldn't bear to see their faces when she explained what would happen. "I've been thinking about what you said," Olivia began, her voice hollow. "Maybe temporary placement is best while I finish my degree. They deserve better than this." Denise looked surprised, then studied Olivia's devastated expression and the small backpacks by the door. She sighed heavily. "Before we discuss that option, there's something I should tell you," she said, setting down her briefcase. "When I was 16, my mother lost our apartment. We lived in her car for 3 months before a school counselor found out. I was placed in foster care while my mother tried to get back on her feet." Olivia looked up, confused by this personal revelation. "My mother was doing her best, just like you," Denise continued. "But once I entered the system, it took 2 years before we were reunited, even though the initial plan was temporary. The system moves slowly, and circumstances change. Why are you telling me this? Because I see a mother who has created stability against impossible odds. Those girls are healthy, educated, and clearly loved. Breaking that bond, even temporarily, could do more harm than good." Denise opened her briefcase and pulled out several brochures. "There's a nonprofit organization called Second Chance Housing that specifically works with parents in education programs. They provide transitional housing and support services on the condition that you maintain your academic standing and the children remain in school." Olivia stared at the brochures, afraid to hope. "I've applied for housing assistance before. The waiting lists are years long. This program is different. It's privately funded and designed specifically for situations like yours, parents who are close to completing education that will lift their families out of poverty. I've already spoken with the director. They have an opening in a 2-bedroom unit near the medical center where you're doing your clinical rotations." "What's the catch?" Olivia asked, still suspicious of sudden good fortune after years of struggle. "No catch. Strict requirements. You must maintain your GPA, attend financial literacy workshops, and participate in community meetings. The twins continue their education without interruption. Rent is subsidized based on your income, which I understand is limited during your clinical phase. The program lasts up to 1 year, by which time you should be established in your nursing career." Olivia's hands trembled as she read through the materials. "Why would they accept us? There must be many families in need." Denise smiled slightly. "Your case is compelling. 7 years in a shed while maintaining perfect grades in nursing school and raising academically gifted children. The director was impressed by your determination. Plus, I may have advocated strongly on your behalf. Why would you do that? You don't know us." "I know enough," Denise replied. "Sometimes, the system needs to recognize when a family is working against impossible odds and offer a hand up instead of tearing them apart." 2 weeks later, Olivia and the twins moved into their transitional apartment. After 7 years in the Aiksten shed, the modest 2-bedroom unit felt palatial. The twins explored in wonder, marveling at having their own bedroom, a bathtub, a refrigerator. Simple things most families took for granted were miraculous to them. "Is this really ours, Mommy?" Maya asked, spinning in the middle of the living room. "For now," Olivia replied cautiously, still afraid to fully trust their change in fortune, "while Mommy finishes school." That first night, the twins insisted on sleeping together despite having separate beds. After years in the shed, the apartment felt too vast, too empty. Olivia understood. She left her bedroom door open, finding the sudden privacy disorienting after years of communal living in a single room. The Second Chance program provided more than housing. It offered childcare during Olivia's clinical hours, tutoring for the twins, and a supportive community of other families working towards self-sufficiency. For the first time, Olivia met other single parents with similar struggles, different in circumstance but unified in their determination to create better lives through education. With stable housing and support services, Olivia excelled in her final clinical rotations. The twins continued to thrive at the STEM Academy, now able to invite friends for playdates and participate in after-school activities. Their lives expanded in ways that had been impossible in the shed. Before graduation, Olivia took the twins to visit Mr. Nakamura in his rehabilitation facility. Though his speech was impaired from the stroke, his eyes brightened when he saw them. The twins showed him their school projects and told him about their new apartment. "Garden misses you," he said with difficulty, holding Olivia's hand. "We miss it too," she replied, tears in her eyes. "We'd never have survived without you." He shook his head slightly. "You are strong, would find way." When Olivia graduated with honors from the nursing program, her support network filled 2 rows of seats. Harriet, Darlene from the diner, Denise, the staff from Second Chance, and even Akiro and his wife. The twins, now 8 years old, watched with pride as their mother received her nursing pin. "That's our mom," Maya told the woman seated next to her. "She studied every night after we went to sleep, even when the electricity ran out." Zoe added matter-of-factly, "She used candles." Within a month of graduation, Olivia secured a position at Mercy Hospital in the pediatric unit. The salary, while entry-level, was more money than she had ever earned. Following the financial literacy training from Second Chance, she created a budget that included saving for a security deposit on their own apartment when their year in the transitional housing ended. As the twins finished second grade, their teachers recommended them for the Academy's accelerated program for exceptionally gifted students. This would include specialized mentorship, advanced coursework, and summer enrichment opportunities. Both girls show remarkable aptitude, the program director explained during a conference. Maya's scientific reasoning is years beyond her grade level, and Zoe's mathematical abilities are frankly astonishing. We believe they would benefit from more challenging curriculum. What would this mean practically? Olivia asked, conscious of their still precarious financial situation. The advanced program includes field trips, specialized materials, and summer institute participation. There are fees involved, though scholarships are available. Even with scholarships, the additional costs would strain Olivia's careful budget, yet she couldn't bear to limit the twins' potential after all they had overcome. "They'll participate," she decided. "I'll make it work." And she did, picking up extra weekend shifts at the hospital to cover the additional expenses. The twins' education remained her absolute priority, the non-negotiable center around which all other decisions revolved. By the end of their year in transitional housing, Olivia had saved enough for a security deposit on a modest 2-bedroom apartment near the hospital. It wasn't in the most desirable neighborhood, but it was clean, safe, and most importantly, theirs, secured with a proper lease in Olivia's name. Moving day was bittersweet. The Second Chance program had given them stability when they needed it most, but Olivia was proud to take this step toward true independence. As they unpacked their still meager belongings, she reflected on how far they had come from the garden shed. "This is really our home?" Zoe asked as she arranged her books on a second-hand shelf. "Yes, sweetheart, really ours. No one can make us leave as long as we pay the rent." "Can we paint my wall blue?" Maya asked, always the more daring twin. Olivia laughed. "We can check the lease, but probably yes, within reason." That night, as the twins slept in their room, still preferring to share despite having space for separate beds, Olivia sat on her small balcony, looking at the city lights. For the first time in almost a decade, she allowed herself to truly believe they had made it through the worst. They had a real home, she had a career, and the twins were receiving the education they deserved. The garden shed that had sheltered them for 7 years was behind them now, a chapter closed, or so she thought. The next 4 years brought stability Olivia had once only dreamed about. Her nursing career advanced steadily as she gained experience and additional certifications. They upgraded to a slightly larger apartment in a better school district, though Olivia arranged for the twins to continue at the STEM Academy through a special permission process. By 12, the twins' academic gifts were undeniable. Maya's science projects won regional competitions, her research on urban garden ecosystems clearly influenced by her early years in Mr. Nakamura's garden. Zoe's mathematical abilities had advanced to university level, with her middle school teachers arranging for her to take online courses through the state university. It was during their 7th grade year that the letter arrived, an invitation for both girls to apply to the prestigious Westridge Academy, a residential school for exceptionally gifted students. The school, located 100 miles from Chicago, offered an unparalleled education with personalized learning plans, university-level facilities, and direct pathways to elite colleges. "We'd live there?" Maya asked when Olivia showed them the letter. "Away from you?" "During the school year," Olivia explained, her own feelings carefully masked. "You'd come home for holidays and summer." The twins exchanged looks, that silent communication they'd developed in the cramped quarters of the shed, still serving them years later. "I don't want to go," Zoe said firmly. "We're doing fine here." "Me neither," Maya agreed quickly. Olivia sat between them on their small couch. "I want you to think about this carefully. This is an incredible opportunity. Only 50 students nationwide are accepted each year. The education you'd receive there, it's beyond anything I could provide here. But we'd be separated from you," Zoe persisted. "After everything we've been through together." "That's exactly why you should consider it," Olivia said softly. "Everything we've been through, all those years in the shed, all the sacrifices, they were for this, for you to have every possible opportunity." The twins remained resistant, but Olivia insisted they at least visit the campus before making a decision. The tour proved transformative. Westridge Academy was everything the brochures promised and more. State-of-the-art laboratories, advanced computing facilities, art studios, and music rooms. The library contained more books than the twins had ever seen in one place. More compelling than the facilities were the students they met, other academically gifted children who spoke passionately about their research projects and studies. For perhaps the first time, Maya and Zoe encountered peers who shared their intellectual curiosity and drive. The students live in houses of 10, with a faculty mentor residing in each house, the admissions director explained. Think of it as a family unit within the larger school community. On the drive home, the twins were uncharacteristically quiet, processing what they'd seen. Finally, Maya spoke. "I want to apply," she said quietly. "The biology lab. They're doing actual genetic research, with real scientists." Zoe nodded slowly. "The mathematics program connects directly with MIT. Dr. Abrams said they could tailor a curriculum specifically to my interests." Olivia gripped the steering wheel tighter, emotions warring within her. Pride in their excitement, fear of separation, guilt at feeling relieved that the financial burden of their advanced education might be eased through scholarships. "If you both want to apply, I'll support you," she said carefully, "but it's a selective process. We should be prepared for any outcome." The twins applied and were both accepted with full scholarships. The admissions committee had been particularly impressed with their academic achievements despite their unconventional early education. Their personal essays, honest accounts of life in the garden shed, and their mother's determination to educate them stood out among applications from more privileged backgrounds. The separation, when it came, was harder than any of them had anticipated. Olivia helped them settle into their respective houses at Westridge, making their dormitory beds with the same care she had once arranged their sleeping area in the shed. The contrast was stark, these bright, spacious rooms with modern furniture versus the makeshift home that had sheltered them for so long. "You call me anytime," she instructed, fighting tears as the moment to leave approached. "Day or night, and I'll visit as often as I can." "Every other weekend," Zoe confirmed, having memorized the bus schedule between Chicago and the academy. "And we'll be home for Thanksgiving," Maya added, clinging to her mother one last time. Driving back to Chicago alone, Olivia allowed herself to weep openly. For 14 years, the twins had been her constant companions, her motivation for every sacrifice, her reason for persevering. The apartment would be unbearably empty without them, yet mixed with the sorrow was a complicated pride. Her daughters were receiving opportunities beyond anything she could have imagined during those dark days in the garden shed. This separation, painful as it was, represented the fulfillment of everything she had worked for. The twins thrived at Westridge. Their weekly video calls were filled with excited accounts of advanced classes, research projects, and new friends. Olivia listened attentively, offering encouragement while hiding her own loneliness. She picked up additional hospital shifts to fill the empty hours and to save for their college education, which loomed on the horizon despite scholarship possibilities. True to their word, the twins came home for every scheduled break, but Olivia noticed subtle changes with each visit. They arrived with new vocabularies, new perspectives, new friends from wealthy families who vacationed in Europe and owned summer homes. Their world was expanding rapidly beyond the boundaries of their humble beginnings. During their sophomore year, Olivia managed to attend Parents' Weekend at Westridge. She took time off work, carefully budgeted for the bus fare and a modest hotel room nearby, and arrived on campus full of anticipation. The event was clearly designed for a different demographic: cocktail receptions, catered luncheons, presentations about tax-advantaged college savings vehicles that assumed significant disposable income. Olivia wore her best outfit, a simple dress purchased specifically for the occasion, and felt conspicuously out of place among designer clothes and casual discussions of vacation homes. She had arranged to meet the twins at the welcome reception. Standing near the entrance, she spotted them across the crowded room, engaged in animated conversation with a group of classmates and what appeared to be their parents. Maya was gesturing enthusiastically, clearly describing something of importance. As Olivia moved closer, she caught fragments of the conversation. "Grew up in this amazing place in Chicago," Maya was saying. "Kind of a country house with this incredible garden, where we learned about ecosystems firsthand." Olivia froze, the description so at odds with their actual childhood that for a moment she wondered if Maya was speaking about someone else. "Sounds lovely," replied an elegant woman in expensive-looking clothes. "Was it in the suburbs?" "Sort of," Maya hedged. "Very green, lots of space to explore. That's why I got interested in botany so early." Zoe noticed Olivia first, her expression shifting rapidly. "Mom," she called, breaking away from the group. "You made it!" The reunion was warm but tinged with an unspoken tension. Later, in the privacy of Maya's dormitory room, Olivia questioned the description she'd overheard. A country house with a garden? Is that how you remember the shed? She asked, trying to keep her tone neutral. Maya flushed. I wasn't lying exactly. There was a garden. We did have space to explore. But why not just tell the truth? I've never been ashamed of what we went through. Without that shed, we wouldn't have survived. The twins exchanged uncomfortable glances. It's not that we're ashamed, Zoe explained carefully. It's just complicated. People here come from such different backgrounds. They wouldn't understand. And honestly, Maya added, sometimes it's exhausting to explain. When we tell the real story, people either don't believe us or they treat us like we're charity cases. Like we only got in because of our inspiring background. Olivia felt a pang of sorrow but nodded slowly. I understand wanting to fit in, but don't forget who you are or where you came from. That shed may have been humble, but there was a lot of love in those four walls. We know, Mom, Zoe said softly. We could never forget. But as the twins progressed through Westridge and then on to prestigious universities, Maya to Cornell for biochemistry and Zoe to MIT for theoretical physics, the distance between them grew, not just physically, as their studies took them further from Chicago, but emotionally as well. Phone calls became less frequent, often rushed and superficial. Visits home shortened as internships and research opportunities filled their summers. Olivia followed their accomplishments through social media and occasional text messages, her heart both bursting with pride and aching with loss. By the time they completed their undergraduate degrees, both with highest honors, communication had dwindled to holiday calls and the rare weekend visit when their paths brought them near Chicago. Olivia never complained, never demanded more attention. She understood that their lives were taking them in directions that required full focus and commitment. Maya's research team is publishing in Nature next month, she would tell her colleagues proudly, showing them the academic journal citation she'd printed out. And Zoe has been accepted to Cambridge for her doctoral work. What she didn't share were her fears that the twins had outgrown not just their humble beginnings but their mother as well. That perhaps the very success she had sacrificed everything for had created an unbridgeable gap between them. As the twins entered graduate programs at elite institutions, Maya pursuing a PhD in molecular biology at Stanford and Zoe beginning doctoral research at Cambridge, Olivia faced her own challenges. Years of physical strain from the shed days, followed by the demands of nursing, had taken a toll on her health. At 52, she was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. She didn't tell the twins immediately, not wanting to distract them from important research deadlines. Instead, she scheduled her surgery during a period when she knew they'd be absorbed in their work, arranged for Harriet, now in her 80s but still fiercely independent, to drive her home afterward, and took medical leave that she framed as vacation time in her infrequent messages to her daughters. The surgery was successful, followed by radiation therapy that left her exhausted but optimistic about recovery. Through it all, she maintained the fiction of a relaxing break from work, sending the twins cheerful updates about minor home improvements and visits with old friends. It was Harriet who finally intervened, calling each twin directly when Olivia was particularly weak following a treatment. "Your mother needs you," she told them bluntly. "She's been going through cancer treatments alone because she didn't want to worry you, but she shouldn't have to face this by herself." The twins arrived within days, Maya from California and Zoe from England, shocked and guilt-ridden to find their mother pale and thin, clearly in the midst of a health crisis she had carefully concealed. "Why didn't you tell us?" Maya demanded, tears streaming down her face as she sat beside Olivia's bed. "You both have such important work," Olivia explained weakly. "I didn't want to interrupt that. I'm handling it fine." "That wasn't your decision to make," Zoe said firmly. "We're not children anymore. You don't need to protect us from reality." The twins extended their stays, accompanying Olivia to treatments and helping with household tasks. For a brief period, their relationship recaptured some of its former closeness. They shared stories from their academic lives, brought Olivia up to date on their research, and reminisced about earlier times, even the shed years, which they could now discuss with a mixture of humor and wonder at their mother's resourcefulness. But academic commitments eventually called them back. Though they arranged for grocery delivery services and hired a part-time caregiver to check on Olivia between treatments, the physical distance resumed, along with the emotional gap that had been growing for years. As Olivia recovered, she was forced to reduce her hours at the hospital. The physical demands of nursing became increasingly difficult, and by 55, she reluctantly accepted early retirement on medical grounds. The reduction in income meant downsizing to a smaller apartment and careful budgeting, but she had always been resourceful with limited means. The twins, meanwhile, were building impressive careers. Maya's research on cellular regeneration attracted significant funding and attention in scientific journals. Zoe's work in theoretical physics led to consulting roles with technology companies developing quantum computing applications. Both traveled internationally for conferences and research collaborations, their lives expanding far beyond the garden shed where they had spent their early years. Communication dwindled further. Birthdays and holidays brought perfunctory calls, and occasional text messages shared brief updates. Olivia followed their professional achievements through academic publications and social media, her pride untarnished by the growing distance between them. "They're busy changing the world," she would tell Harriet during their weekly dinners. "That's what we wanted for them." "But do they know what it cost you?" Harriet would counter, still fiercely protective of her friend. Olivia would simply smile. "They don't need that burden. Knowing is different from understanding. Anyway, how could they truly understand unless they'd lived my life?" In truth, there was a part of Olivia that believed the twins had indeed forgotten, or chosen to forget, the reality of their early years. The reframing she had overheard at Westridge, the country house with a garden, seemed to have become their preferred narrative, a more palatable history to share with colleagues and friends in their new worlds. She didn't blame them. Who would want to explain that they had spent 7 formative years in an 8x10 shed without plumbing, that their mother had washed dishes all night and studied by candlelight while they slept on a mattress under a table, that they had worn secondhand clothes and eaten discounted food and never had a proper birthday party until they were 8 years old? If reimagining that history made their present lives easier, Olivia could accept that. After all, everything she had done, every sacrifice, every hardship endured, had been to give them the freedom to become whoever they wanted to be, unburdened by the limitations that had defined her own life. So when a full year passed without a visit home, Olivia simply sent cheerful updates and congratulations on their latest achievements. When Maya called to say she couldn't make it for Christmas, Olivia assured her it was fine. She understood completely. When Zoe's birthday gift arrived 2 weeks late with an apologetic note about grant deadlines, Olivia called to thank her effusively, making no mention of the delay. She had built her life around giving her daughters wings. She could hardly complain when they soared too high and far to return to the nest. Then, in early spring of 2025, 25 years after those first desperate days in the garden shed, an unexpected letter arrived at Olivia's modest apartment. Not an email or a text message, but an actual envelope with a handwritten address in Zoe's precise script. Inside was an elegant invitation card requesting Olivia's presence at an important event in Chicago 2 weeks later. Both twins had signed it, adding a personal note. "Mom, we know it's short notice, but it would mean everything to have you there. We'll explain everything when we see you. All our love, Maya and Zoe." Olivia read the invitation repeatedly, puzzled by its formality and vagueness. The twins rarely returned to Chicago these days, both building their careers in distant cities. What could be important enough to bring them both home? And why the mysterious phrasing? She called each of them, but both went straight to voicemail. Their text responses were equally cryptic. "Can't wait to see you. Everything will make sense soon. Just please come." For 2 weeks, Olivia alternated between excitement and anxiety. She spent a significant portion of her limited budget on a new outfit for the occasion, wanting to look her best for whatever this mysterious event might be. She had her hair styled for the first time in years, and even splurged on a manicure, something she had never prioritized during the lean years. The designated evening arrived, and Olivia took a bus to the downtown hotel address listed on the invitation. The driver helped her exit near the gleaming entrance, where a doorman directed her to a conference room on the mezzanine level. As she approached the door, Olivia hesitated, suddenly overwhelmed by uncertainty. What if this was some sort of intervention? Had her frugal lifestyle concerned the twins? Were they planning to insist she move to assisted living, though she was only 57 and managing well despite her health challenges? Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door and froze in astonishment. The large room was filled with people, many of whom she recognized despite the passage of years. Mr. Nakamura's son Akiro and his wife Yuki, now in their 70s. Harriet's daughter, whom Olivia had met only a few times when she visited from Denver. Denise Williams from Child Protective Services, now retired with silver hair. Darlene from the diner, older but still with the same no-nonsense expression. Teachers from the STEM Academy, even the contractor who had improved the shed all those years ago. And at the center of it all, Maya and Zoe, now 35-year-old women at the height of their professional powers, rushing forward to embrace their mother. "What is all this?" Olivia asked, bewildered by the gathering. "It's a reunion," Maya explained, leading her toward the front of the room where comfortable chairs had been arranged. "And a thank you," Zoe added, "to everyone who helped us along the way." Olivia noticed a professional video crew in the corner of the room, cameras trained on her reaction. Before she could question this, an elegant woman approached with a warm smile. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm Dr. Eleanor Chen, director of the Phillips Foundation." Your daughters have been working with us on a very special project. Tonight is just the beginning of what we hope to share with you. The evening unfolded like a dream. Person after person came forward to share memories of Olivia and the twins. Mr. Nakamura's son describing his initial misgivings about the shed arrangement and his eventual admiration for Olivia's determination. Denise recounting her decision to advocate for the family rather than separate them. Teachers from the STEM Academy praising the exceptional preparation the twins had received despite their circumstances. I remember Maya knowing the scientific names of every plant in our classroom, her third-grade teacher recalled. When I asked where she learned them, she said, "My mom and I grew them in our garden. I had no idea that garden was actually keeping your family fed and housed." Darlene from the diner shared how Olivia had never once been late for a shift, even during blizzards when public transportation shut down. She'd walk through snowdrifts with those babies bundled up in that cart she rigged. Never complained, just did what needed doing. Throughout the testimonials, the twins sat on either side of Olivia, holding her hands as tears streamed down all three faces. During a brief break, Olivia pulled her daughters aside. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why now? Why all these people from the past?" The twins exchanged glances, that silent communication still intact after all these years. "We'll explain everything tomorrow," Maya promised. "For tonight, just know that we never forgot. Not any of it. We've been working on something for years," Zoe added. "Something we couldn't tell you about until we were sure it would succeed." "Working on what?" Olivia pressed. "A legacy," they answered in unison. After the gathering, the twins accompanied Olivia back to her apartment. Though they had offered to book her a room at the hotel, she had insisted on returning home, uncomfortable with such extravagance. They stayed the night, cramming their adult bodies onto the pull-out sofa, as they had during college visits, whispering and giggling as if they were children again. Olivia lay awake in her bedroom, listening to their murmured conversation with a heart full of confused emotions, joy at their presence, lingering hurt from the years of distance, and intense curiosity about what they had planned. In the morning, a sleek black car arrived to collect them. The driver, respectful and professional, informed them they would be traveling about 20 minutes outside the city center. "Where are we going?" Olivia asked as they settled into the comfortable back seat. "To the place where it all began," Maya replied cryptically. "A place you haven't seen in many years," Zoe added. The car turned onto familiar streets, and Olivia felt a strange tightening in her chest as they entered the old neighborhood where the garden shed had stood. Much had changed. New developments had replaced some of the older homes, and trendy cafes now occupied former vacant lots. "Mr. Nakamura's garden," she murmured as they approached the block, "but it must be gone by now, after he died." Her voice trailed off as the car slowed near the location where the community garden had once stood. Instead of the expected condo development or parking lot, Olivia saw an expansive, beautifully landscaped campus spanning what appeared to be several acres. A modernist building of glass and sustainable materials rose in the center, surrounded by smaller structures and garden spaces. As the car stopped at the entrance gate, Olivia noticed the sign, "The Olivia Reynolds Family Renewal Center." "What is this?" Olivia whispered, staring at her name emblazoned on the sign. The twins helped her from the car, each supporting one of her arms as if afraid she might collapse from shock. "This is what we've been working on for the past 15 years, Maya explained, leading her toward the main entrance. "Ever since our sophomore year at Westridge, when we realized how unique our story was, and how many other families face similar struggles. We started small," Zoe continued. "Research, planning, connecting with foundations interested in education and family stability." "But I don't understand," Olivia said, still disoriented by seeing her name on the building. "How did you—" "One step at a time," Maya assured her. "We'll explain everything." As they entered the main building, Olivia gasped. The spacious lobby featured a wall of photographs documenting their journey. Olivia in her nursing scrubs, the twins at various ages, even a carefully restored photograph of Robert that Olivia had thought was lost years ago. A young woman approached, extending her hand. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm Jessica Martinez, the center's operations director. It's an honor to meet you. Your daughters have told us so much about you. I still don't understand what this place is," Olivia admitted, overwhelmed. "Perhaps it's best if we show you," Jessica suggested, gesturing toward a corridor. "We've prepared a tour." The tour began in a wing dedicated to transitional housing, 20 fully furnished two-bedroom apartments for families in educational programs. Each unit featured modern amenities, study spaces, and child-friendly designs. "Currently, we have 18 families in residence," Jessica explained. "Each parent is enrolled in degree or certification programs while maintaining stable care for their children. We provide wraparound services including childcare, tutoring, and career guidance." They continued to an education center where children of various ages worked with tutors or engaged in educational activities. A computer lab offered state-of-the-art technology, while a library rivaled those of well-funded schools. All children residing at the center remain enrolled in their regular schools, Jessica noted, but here they receive additional support tailored to their specific needs and interests. We found that children in housing transition often fall behind academically. Our goal is to ensure that temporary housing challenges don't derail educational progress. Olivia listened in amazement, understanding the implications but still struggling to connect this impressive facility to her daughter's mysterious project. The tour continued through healthcare facilities offering basic medical services, community dining areas, and administrative offices. Throughout, staff greeted the twins with obvious respect and familiarity, confirming that this was indeed their creation. "Now," Jessica said, her tone softening, "there's a special part of the center we've saved for last. It's really the heart of everything we do here." She led them to a central courtyard garden, beautifully designed with native plants and vegetable beds that immediately reminded Olivia of Mr. Nakamura's garden from years ago. In the center of this space stood a small structure that made Olivia stop in her tracks. It was the shed, not exactly as it had been. It had been carefully restored, its weathered wood preserved but reinforced, its roof repaired, its windows replaced with exact replicas of the ones Olivia had patched so many times, but unmistakably the same 8x10 structure that had sheltered them for 7 years. "How is this possible?" Olivia breathed, approaching slowly. "I thought it would have been demolished years ago. When Mr. Nakamura died, his son was going to sell the property," Maya explained. "But we convinced him to wait. We were only in college then, with no money, but we had a vision. We promised to buy the land eventually," Zoe continued. "He thought we were crazy, 2 college students planning to purchase valuable urban property, but he agreed to lease it to the foundation we were establishing until we could raise the funds." "You've been planning this since college?" Olivia asked, stunned. "All those years when I thought you were just focused on your careers." "We were building this," Maya confirmed. "Every patent Zoe filed, every research grant I secured, a percentage went into the foundation fund. We lived like graduate students for 15 years, Zoe admitted with a small smile, "even after we could afford better. Every extra dollar went here." Olivia approached the shed, touching its familiar walls with trembling fingers. "May I?" Jessica nodded, unlocking the door with a small key that looked remarkably like the one Mr. Nakamura had given Olivia all those years ago. Stepping inside, Olivia gasped. The interior had been meticulously recreated to match her careful arrangements from those years. The platform bed with space underneath for the twins' mattress, the fold-down table, the small shelves loaded with children's books. Even the handmade curtains she had sewn from discount fabric were replicated exactly. "We worked from photographs and our memories," Maya explained, watching her mother's reaction. "We wanted it to be as accurate as possible." Surrounding the shed, protected by a modern structure that preserved but did not alter it, was a museum-quality exhibition documenting their journey. Display cases held artifacts, Olivia's original nursing textbooks with notes in the margins, the twins' first science fair ribbons, the diner uniform Olivia had worn for 8 years, carefully preserved. "This is the anchor of the center," Zoe explained as Olivia moved through the exhibition, touching the glass cases with wonder. "Every family who comes here tours this space. It shows them what's possible, how education can transform lives even starting from the most challenging circumstances." "But why my name on the building?" Olivia asked. "This was your vision, your achievement, because none of it would exist without you," Maya said firmly. "Not just the inspiration for the center, but us, who we became, what we were able to accomplish. Every opportunity we've had came from your sacrifice. We distanced ourselves," Zoe admitted, voice breaking slightly. "Not because we were ashamed or had forgotten, but because we were afraid." "Afraid of what?" Olivia asked. "Afraid of failing," Maya explained. "Of raising your hopes for this project and then not being able to deliver. We couldn't bear the thought of disappointing you after everything you'd done. So we focused on our careers, building credentials and connections that would eventually make this possible," Zoe continued. "And yes, we should have visited more, called more. That distance was the greatest regret of our lives. But we never stopped working toward this," Maya finished. "Every day, in everything we did, we were trying to create something worthy of your sacrifice." Olivia stood speechless, overwhelmed by the revelation that the years she had interpreted as growing apart had actually been dedicated to this incredible legacy. Jessica discreetly stepped away, leaving the family alone in the exhibition space. Olivia moved slowly through the displays, recognizing pieces of their history carefully preserved and contextualized. One section documented her nursing education, another showcased the twins' academic achievements. The final display focused on the center itself, explaining its mission to support families in educational transition. "The center has been operational for 2 years," Maya explained as they walked. "We wanted to ensure it was stable and successful before revealing it to you." Currently, we serve 20 families in residence, plus another 40 through our day programs, Zoe added. The selection criteria prioritize parents pursuing education with children, showing academic promise but facing housing instability. Just like us, Olivia murmured. Exactly like us, the twins confirmed together. As they completed the tour, they arrived at a small private courtyard where a table had been set for lunch. Joining them were key figures from the previous night's gathering: Harriet, now using a walker but still sharp-minded, Denise from Child Protective Services, and Akiro, representing his late father. Over the meal, the twins explained the full scope of their project. The Olivia Reynolds Family Renewal Center was now endowed with a sustainable funding model, combining foundation support, corporate partnerships, and income from patents the twins had developed through their research. We've established selection criteria that identify families with the greatest potential for educational success, Maya explained. Not just the children's academic abilities, but also the parents' commitment to their own education and career development. The housing program lasts up to 2 years, Zoe continued, long enough for most parents to complete associate degrees or professional certifications. We've already had 6 families graduate to independent living with careers that can support their children's educational needs. And the success rate? Denise asked, the social worker in her still focused on measurable outcomes. 92% of families who enter the program complete their educational goals, Maya reported proudly. 100% of the children maintain or improve their academic standing during residence. As the meal concluded, the twins asked the others to excuse them for a private moment with their mother. Leading Olivia to a quiet office, they sat her down between them on a comfortable sofa. There's more we need to tell you, Maya began, taking her mother's hand. 3 things, actually. First, Zoe continued, we've arranged for your cancer treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Dr. Lisa Chen, the woman you met last night, is not just a foundation director but also one of the country's leading oncologists specializing in your type of cancer. She's reviewed your case and believes you're an excellent candidate for a new treatment protocol. But my insurance wouldn't begin to cover, Olivia began. It's all arranged, Maya interrupted gently. The foundation has a healthcare program for families of center residents. As the namesake of the center, you qualify automatically. Before Olivia could process this, Zoe continued to the second point. We've established a residence for you here on the campus. It's a private apartment in the staff wing, with a garden view. You would have independence but also community, and access to the center's facilities. And healthcare on site, Maya added. You could retire properly, without financial concerns. Olivia shook her head, overwhelmed. This is too much. You've both done so much already. There's one more thing, Zoe said, glancing at her sister. Perhaps the most important. Maya reached for a laptop on the nearby desk and opened it to reveal a video player. For the past 3 years, we've been working with a documentary filmmaker to tell our story, from the shed to this center. It's called From Shed to Sanctuary. All those interviews last night were part of it, Zoe explained, gathering perspectives from people who were part of our journey. The film has been selected for several major festivals, Maya continued. It premieres next month at Tribeca. But more importantly, Zoe added, it will be used as an educational and advocacy tool for policy changes, supporting families in educational transition. Your story, our story, could help change how society responds to situations like ours. Olivia sat in silence, tears streaming down her face, unable to form words adequate to respond to these revelations. We know it's a lot to take in, Maya said softly, and we'll understand if you need time to consider the residence offer, Zoe added. But the cancer treatment is non-negotiable. We've already scheduled the initial consultation. Olivia finally found her voice. All these years I thought you were distancing yourselves from our past, from me. I heard Maya describe the shed as a country house once, and I assumed you were embarrassed. The twins exchanged guilty glances. There were times we did that, Maya admitted. In college especially, when it seemed easier than explaining the whole complicated truth. But as we got older, we began sharing the real story, Zoe explained. With colleagues who could help us build this place, with foundations who could fund it, with filmmakers who could document it. Our shame wasn't about where we came from, Maya said earnestly. It was about not visiting enough, not calling enough, while we were building this. We were so afraid of getting your hopes up before we were sure it would succeed. Olivia reached out, drawing both daughters into her embrace. I have never been more proud in my entire life, not just of what you've built, but of who you've become. As they held each other, years of misunderstanding and distance dissolved in the recognition of a deeper truth. The twins had never forgotten or rejected their past. Instead, they had transformed it into a legacy that would help countless families facing the same struggles they had overcome. The following week passed in a whirlwind of activity. Olivia began her treatment consultations at Memorial Sloan Kettering, where the prognosis was more optimistic than her previous doctors had indicated. The new protocol offered significant promise for not just remission but potential cure of her early-stage cancer. She also spent time exploring the center more thoroughly, meeting resident families and observing the programs in action. Each day revealed new aspects of the twins' careful planning: how the educational support was structured to accommodate parents' varying schedules, how the communal spaces fostered community, while private apartments preserved dignity and independence, how every detail reflected lessons learned from their own experience. The resident families, initially shy around the center's namesake, gradually opened up to Olivia. Many were single mothers, though there were also fathers and two-parent families facing temporary hardship. All were pursuing education, nursing programs, teacher certification, technical training, college degrees, while supporting academically promising children. "Your daughters tell your story during orientation," one mother confided as she prepared for evening classes. "At first I didn't believe it, that they lived in a shed and now they're famous scientists. But seeing that shed in the courtyard, hearing the details, it gave me hope when I really needed it." Olivia spent hours in the exhibition surrounding the shed, absorbing the careful documentation of their journey. The twins had collected newspaper clippings about Robert's accident, Olivia's nursing school graduation announcement, academic awards the twins had received. They had created timelines showing their educational progression alongside Olivia's career development, illustrating how education had transformed their opportunities. Most moving was a section dedicated to invisible helpers, people like Mr. Fection, invisible helpers people like Mr. Proud, Nakamura, Harriet, Denise, and Darlene, who had offered critical support at key moments. The exhibition emphasized how community intervention, however small, could make tremendous difference in educational outcomes for families in crisis. By the end of the week, Olivia had made her decision about the residence offer. Though fiercely independent, she recognized both the practical advantages and the symbolic importance of living at the center named in her honor. Her presence would provide living testimony to the families and residents that their current struggles could lead to remarkable outcomes. The twins helped her move into the apartment they had designed with her comfort in mind. Larger than any space she had lived in since the days before Robert's death, it featured a master suite with accommodations for her medical needs, a study where she could write or read, and a small private garden patio. They had filled the bookshelves with her favorite novels and medical texts, hung photographs spanning their family history, and even recreated the small handmade quilt that had covered the twins' makeshift bed in the shed, now displayed as art on the living room wall. "Is it too much?" Zoe asked anxiously as they showed her the space. "We wanted it to feel like home but not overwhelm you." "It's perfect," Olivia assured them, touching the quilt with reverent fingers. "How did you remember this?" "I thought it was lost during one of our moves. We had it recreated from photographs," Maya explained. "The original was falling apart when we left the shed." "We remember everything, Mom," Zoe said softly. "Every sacrifice, every lesson, every moment you created stability in the midst of chaos." As Olivia settled into her new home and treatment routine, the twins prepared for the documentary premiere. Though initially hesitant to participate in such public exposure of their past, Olivia gradually embraced the potential impact their story might have on policy and perception. "The filmmaker wants to include recent footage," Maya explained during dinner in Olivia's new apartment. "Your reaction to seeing the center, meeting the families. Would you be comfortable with that?" "If it helps other families, yes," Olivia decided, "though I can't imagine anyone wanting to watch a film about us." "Actually," Zoe said, exchanging glances with her sister, "pre-festival interest has been significant. Several streaming platforms are already negotiating distribution rights. Apparently, people find our story compelling," Maya added with a small smile. "Rags to riches stories have always been popular," Olivia remarked. "Though we were never really in rags, just a very small shed." The twins laughed, relieved that their mother could now find humor in what had once been desperate circumstances. The documentary filming concluded with interviews of Olivia interacting with current resident families. She found herself naturally falling into a mentorship role, offering practical advice to parents struggling to balance education and childcare, sharing techniques she had developed for creating educational moments in everyday activities. One afternoon, while demonstrating how to create learning games from household items to a group of resident mothers, Olivia noticed two young twin girls watching intently from the doorway. About 7 years old, with matching braids and serious expressions, they reminded her forcefully of Maya and Zoe at that age. "Hello there," she called, beckoning them in. "Would you like to join us?" The girls approached shyly, one slightly behind the other. "Are you really the lady who lived in the shed?" the bolder twin asked. "I am," Olivia confirmed. "With my daughters when they were about your age, and now they're scientists," the second twin said with wonder. And they built this whole place. They did, Olivia agreed, because education changed what was possible for them. The girl's mother, a nursing student named Tamika, joined them. Sorry if they're bothering you, Miss Reynolds. They've been fascinated by your story since we arrived. Not bothering at all, Olivia assured her. What are your names? I'm Jasmine, the first twin replied. And that's Jade. We're in 2nd grade. Do you like school? Olivia asked. I like science, Jasmine declared. I want to study plants like your daughter. I like math, Jade added more quietly. But it's hard sometimes. My daughters found those subjects difficult too occasionally, Olivia told them. That's why they work so hard. Nothing worth doing is ever easy. The following day, Olivia found a handmade card slipped under her apartment door. On the front, in careful childish printing, were the words, "Thank you." Inside, a simple message. "Thank you for showing our mommy it's possible." From Jasmine and Jade. Olivia placed the card on her mantle, next to photographs of Maya and Zoe at similar ages. The parallel was undeniable and deeply moving. Another set of twins whose futures might be transformed by their mother's determination and the educational support provided at just the right moment. As the documentary premiere approached, Olivia's treatment progressed favorably. The state-of-the-art protocol was less debilitating than her previous treatment, allowing her to maintain energy for her increasingly active role at the center. She began offering formal mentoring sessions for resident parents, sharing practical strategies for supporting children's education during housing transition. You've become our most valuable resource, Jessica told her during a staff meeting. The parents relate to you in ways they can't with professional counselors. You've lived their struggles. I never thought my experience would be useful this way, Olivia admitted. For so many years, I just wanted to put it behind us. That's what makes your story so powerful, Jessica explained. You didn't just survive. You created a foundation for extraordinary achievement. That's what every parent here is trying to do. The evening before they would travel to New York for the documentary premiere, the twins invited Olivia to join them for a private dinner in the center's community garden. They had arranged a table beside the preserved shed, lit by the same kind of candles Olivia had once used for studying when electricity had been scarce. A full circle moment, Maya explained as they seated their mother. Our last meal before stepping into a very public version of our story. The meal was simple but symbolic. Dishes Olivia had created during their shed years, elevated by professional preparation. Garden vegetables in honor of Mr. Nakamura. Pasta that reminded them of Darlene's sneaking leftovers from the diner. Bread pudding like Harriet used to make for Sunday dinners. As they ate, they reminisced about moments from those challenging years. The winter night they'd built a fort of blankets inside the shed during a blizzard. The summer evening they'd watched fireflies in the garden. The day the twins had brought home their first academic achievement certificates. I worried so much about what you were missing, Olivia confessed. Birthday parties, proper bedrooms, new clothes. I never realized what you were gaining. Resourcefulness, Maya said immediately. I can solve any research problem because nothing seems impossible after watching you create a life from nothing. Perspective, Zoe added. In Cambridge, my colleagues panic over trivial setbacks, but I know what real adversity looks like and how to push through it. Compassion, Maya continued. We understand struggle in ways many of our peers never will. It shapes how we see the world, how we approach our work. And determination, Zoe finished. Nothing has ever been as difficult as those years, which means nothing in our futures ever could be. After dinner, as twilight softened the garden, the three women walked arm in arm to the shed. Olivia stood in the doorway, looking at the meticulously recreated interior that had once been their entire world. It's strange, she said softly. It looks so small now, but back then, it felt like everything, because it kept us together, kept us safe. It was everything, Maya agreed, standing beside her. The foundation of everything we became, and now it's the foundation of something much larger, Zoe added, gesturing to the center buildings surrounding them. A legacy that will continue for generations. Olivia touched the weathered wood of the doorframe, feeling the years beneath her fingers. This little shed was never our failure, she whispered. It was always our beginning. The twins wrapped their arms around their mother, the three of them silhouetted in the doorway of the small structure that had both sheltered their past and now anchored their shared legacy, a testament to the power of maternal love, educational opportunity, and the extraordinary potential that lies within every child, regardless of where they begin their journey. The documentary From Shed to Sanctuary won the Audience Award at the Tribeca Film Festival and was subsequently acquired by a major streaming platform, bringing the Reynolds family story to millions of viewers worldwide. Its release sparked renewed policy discussions about educational support for families in housing transition, with several states implementing programs inspired by the center's approach. Olivia, now cancer-free following her successful treatment, divides her time between mentoring resident families at the center, and speaking nationally about educational equity and the transformative power of maternal determination. The handmade card from Jasmine and Jade travels with her to every speaking engagement, a reminder of why sharing their story matters.